Hello, everybody. It is Rocco, you boy, coming at you with another Age of Sigmar video. In this video, we're going to go over the whole Cities of Sigmar Battletome, at least the rules. Not the War Scrolls, that'll be in a part 2 that'll come out after this video. I know we said we were going to go back to the Things That Scare Players series, but you know what? My, my beloved City of Sigmar dropped. And everyone and their grandmother has the PDF from the leak, so you know what? Why not me too, huh? Let's dig right in. Starting off, we have 11 subfactions shown here. I'm sad the Phoenician isn't involved. I will say I'm a bit sad about some of the rules being a bit more simplified in the way 3rd edition is, where instead of you getting like a command ability and a rule, you just get a rule. It's fine. It's a good book. Starting off here, pick a subfaction. Really, we don't get this. I never understood why the books do that. Like, pick a subfaction, you don't do that yet. We have special rules. We have orders. You give an order to your different heroes. They are race locked. Human heroes give human orders. Elf heroes give orders to the elves. Dwarden give Dwarden. Well, I'll just keep calling them dwarves. Dwarven orders. They're cool. This isn't a command ability thing. This isn't giving out commands. This is a completely separate thing. If you're familiar with 40k, think the Imperial Guard with how their officers give out orders for like, here's this buff. You just get it. Stay in range of me, and you get it. Ours are a bit more like trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like any card game, I guess. And I'm gonna actually zoom in a little bit more. I know it's the potato cam, whatever, but here we are. In such that you can try to read this a little better. Generic one is advanced information, which is still geared towards human units that have this Castellite keyword, which is you reveal this order at the start of your movement phase, your own movement phase. If you do, add 3 inches to the movement characteristic of friendly Cities of Sigmar units that start a normal move within, not wholly within, just within a hero with this order. In addition, if you are a Castellite unit, you have a cool rule called Fortified Positions. You get to move and still keep your fortified position. Advanced Formation, it's going to be a very popular one. The second general one is called Counter Charge. You reveal this order at the end of the enemy charge phase. Pick one friendly cities unit that is more than 3 inches from all enemy units, also known as outside of combat range. And they also have to be within range of the hero, 3 inches, and you can attempt to charge. In addition, if you land that charge, you get +1 to your rend until the end of the turn. So you can actually start putting out a lot of damage, which is really cool because you can stack rend. Now, these are 3 human orders. The first one is Return Fire. Because the human keyword is on the Ironweld Great Cannon unit and also the Fusiliers, the new handgunner crossbow replacement. And the short version is you reveal this when you're being shot. When they're done shooting at you, that first unit, pick one friendly cities unit that is more than 3 inches from all enemies, aka outside of combat, and is within 3 inches of the hero. They can immediately shoot. You don't have to shoot the unit that shot you. You can just shoot. So say someone like in Unit of Mord thing, the ogre champion has a pistol. He just takes like a pot shot at you, wings one of your guys. Cool, you've got the whole unit can just shoot, which is really cool. And if you have buffs and stuff on them that don't go away until your next hero phase, yeah, this is fantastic. Suppressing Fire. You reveal this at the start of your own shooting phase. If you do so, pick one friendly city's human unit within 3 inches of the hero with this order. After that unit shoots, if all of its attacks targeted the same enemy unit, like you focus them down, do not split your shots with this. You roll 2 dice and add the number of models slain to that roll. If it exceeds the bravery characteristic of the enemy unit, it is suppressed, and they suffer from the strike's last effect until the end of the turn. So if you're setting up a charge and you're worried that you need to charge multiple units, this will basically function like, you get to pick your first combat, and then when you charge that unit into the strike's last unit, they have to wait until you go to hit. It's great. You can set up some really devastating charges and abilities with this to mop up units. Even if it's, like, say, a destruction unit that has a lower bravery characteristic, even like a Mega Gargant doesn't have the highest bravery. You don't have to kill it, but if you can roll over their bravery, they'll have the strike last effect too. If you have a bunch of shots into a horde unit, they're waiting. If you kill 10 models, and you roll your 2d6, you're gonna make whatever fight last. You do need to exceed the bravery characteristic of that enemy unit, not tie it. But again, most things, the highest bravery generally is bravery 10. And Fusiliers definitely can kill a lot of stuff and put on a lot of wounds and things. Finally, this one's a little bit glared out. It's called Engage the Foe, where you pick one start of your own charge phase, pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar human unit that is outside of combat and hasn't fought yet in the battle, and is within 3 inches of the hero with this order. If that unit makes a charge move in this phase, add 1 to the attack characteristics of that unit's melee weapons until the following combat phase. So, this is great because it's your charge phase, where you're going to charge anyway. That's the plan. You throw this onto a unit, give them the extra attacks if it's a horde of the new Steel Helm Infantry or the Cavaliers that are a combat melee hammer, give them extra attacks, and this just feels really good. And it makes sense. These are 3 orders that I could see me using in this army. I just need to make sure I have enough heroes to get all of them off, because I want to use all 5. I'd like to hold on to counter charge if I need to. Advance in formation is just a first turn to make sure I get in range of everybody or onto an objective. That's great. I don't lose my buffs for my special Castellite shooting formation. Return fire is cool. Suppressing fire is very useful. And again, engaging the foe, if I see an opening where I want to be aggressive, this allows me to make sure I'm going to kill whatever I hit. Next, we have 2 Durden Orders and 2 Elf Orders. The first dwarf one, Durden even, is Form Shield Wall. If the unit has 5 or more models and is in range of the hero with this order, you can form Shield Wall, and a unit that's formed Shield Wall, the Strike Last effect applies to this unit, but it has a ward save of a 5-up. So if you're going to be tanky, this is at the start of the enemy combat phase, you weren't going to get picked anyway. You need to hold an objective and hold out for as long as possible. This is an amazing order to give. Also, the next one is Grim Last Stand. This is start of your own combat phase, Cities of Sigmar Darden unit. As long as you're in range of the hero. When your models die on a 5-up, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound, kind of as a last hurrah. Listen, if you own dwarves, you own a lot of dwarves. This isn't horrible. This isn't game-breaking. But you can put out a lot of damage accidentally with this. If they kill a bunch of your stuff and then they just don't have anything there on the objective. I don't hate it. It's useful enough. Elven Orders now. We have Strike Them Down at the start of the charge phase. When the Elven unit charges in, they have the Strike First effect, which is great. So they get to fight first when they charge in. And also they have Swift disengage, which is you need to be again within range of the hero, which is 3 inches, elf hero to elf unit, and you need to be in combat range. Um, at the end of the combat phase, just the combat phase, you can immediately retreat after you fight. It's the end of the combat. Sorry, the end of the I said it right. The end of the combat phase. After everyone's done fighting, you retreat and get out, so you can set up for your next move. Being highly mobile, hitting, killing, setting up to steal an objective with this, being able to reposition to set up for your turn if you're going next, because it's just the combat phase. So you can set up a charge to give yourself strike them down. This is nice. Also, for strike them down, this is just the start of the charge phase. You still have to make a charge move in this turn. But we scroll up here. I want to check. Counter charge is just generic. So if you give counter charge from one hero and then strike them down to another, all of a sudden your elves are very deadly on a turn where your opponent you would think would pick the first unit. And we're smelling combos here. He's gotta love elves. Well, the former Darkling Covens and Order Serpentis elves. Rip my Phoenix guard that would have loved that. We've got command traits now, where we have Divine Champion here. This general becomes a priest if they're not already a priest. In addition, they know the Hammer of Sigmar prayer below, which is goes off on a 4, range of 12 inches, if answered. At the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to wound rolls for melee weapons by friendly cities human units that are wholly within range of the character. So it gives out an aura of +1 to wound and melee, which is great. Putting this on a killy hero like Free Guild Marshal on a Griffin or a Free Guild Marshal on horse. Honestly, that's cool. The downside is it's a 4-up, but when that means it's just going to go off half the time. So when it does go off, you're going to have a really good time. And if not, well, then this is just an extra thing anyway. For an already pretty killy army at range. And with these other tricks, it's really good to even just be able to attempt this prayer. Next, Grizzled Veteran. Wound rolls, down here. Wound rolls for attacks that target this general only wound on a 4-up. Unmodified 4-up. For everyone who plays 40k and also watches this, there's an ability for that called Transhuman Physiology, and it is extremely freaking useful. Again, putting this on a big monster that's going to be targeted by everyone and their grandmother. Because it's just for attacks. This is shooting attacks. This is melee attacks. We know there's a lot of +1s to wound. There is a lot of wounding on 3s already. To just mess with the math hammer on that is going to pay dividends throughout the course of the game. Next, we have Master Ballistics, which is if this general issues an all-out attack command, which is +1 to hit, to a friendly Castellite unit, there's that keyword again, in the shooting phase, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with missile weapons by that unit in this phase. This is in addition to the normal +1 to hit, which, again, it's really freaking good. And it's really going to be popular here. I think that one and Divine Champion are really good. Fiery Temper is probably my sleeper pick, which is reroll charge rolls for this general. In addition, if the general made a charge move, you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Cities of Sigmar human units while they are wholly within 18 of this general. Now, the reason I say this is my sleeper over Grizzled Veteran, which is just straight up useful, is when I've played Old Hammerhall with the Demigryph battalions and all the heavy knights that I had, my big auras that for that was giving off auras pluses to charge and combos. Having a reroll aura that is 18 inches fully within 18 inches of the general on, say, a griffin, which is a huge base, like this big of a base, that can cover. I don't even know if my hands are still in the shot. That is a huge, huge. Might as well be table wide ability, army wide ability for you. And to be able to save command points on that is going to, again, add up over time. And it is just extremely useful. You have 4 useful command traits. If you're leaning into a shooting army, Master Ballistics. If you want to get a little more melee oomph, Divine Champion. If you need your hero on Griffin, let's say, to survive long enough to do something, Grizzled Veteran. If you find that you've been having a hard time getting in and making your charge rolls, Fiery Temper is an amazing buff. Then we have Lords of the Mountains, and then Dreaded Leaders for the Elves. Of Mighty Lineage for the Dwarves here. Start of your combat phase, you issue a challenge. As dwarves are known to do, they love grudges. And you pick an enemy hero that you're within combat range of, within that 3 inches of this general. So the end of that phase, the strike first effect applies to your own general, but all the attacks must target that enemy hero. If it's a foot hero on foot hero slog you want, this isn't horrible. It's nice. We have Insurmountable Resilience. At the end of each combat phase, roll a dice for each wound currently allocated to the general. On a 3-up, you heal it. Yeah, it's useful. You're a 5 wound hero, and this could be swinging, so you don't need to use your heroic action to recover after a combat. Again, it's still good. Then you have Master of the Ancient Lore. General becomes a priest. And if they're already a priest, they know 1 additional prayer from the Rune Lore prayer scripture, which is good. Yeah, these are okay. I like the Insurmountable Resilience for healing. I feel healing utility is very important throughout games of Age of Sigmar when you have support foot heroes. I think that the combat phase dueling is thematic. I don't know that you want your hero just fighting other heroes. But you know what? If you need to go and hit on a monster hero and you're doing a 1-2 punch of, say, them and some heavy dwarven infantry, having 2 units fight before your opponent does because it's your charge phase isn't bad. Next, for the elves, we have Unparalleled Duelist, which is probably my favorite of this whole book, is each hit for an attack made with a melee weapon that targets this general that doesn't score a hit, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all of its attacks have been resolved. Because your elf is so good at swordplay and riposting, every time someone fails to hit them, they take it and stab them with their own weapon. I think that's really cool. I think throwing in, say, a tanky Dreadlord on Black Dragon with that could be very interesting. Next, we have Secretive Warlock, which is a wizard only, +1 to cast and unbinding rolls made for this general. If your general is the sorceress, that is the wizard elf that is left. And then that's still really useful because then you look at, they have an ability on the War Scroll still to get +2 to casting. That's a +3 to cast already before we get into other modifiers. Yeah, very useful if you're going for Darkling Covens. And finally, we have Draconic Blood Pact, which is the hero mounted on Black Dragon only, where at the start of your combat phase, you can say you will take a mortal wound, but you get an extra attack characteristic on all the weapon profiles for the general's mount. It's still a monster that brackets. I still think Unparalleled Duelist will pay out more dividends as your opponent hurts themselves trying to hit you, more so than getting an extra bite and claw attack. And breath weapon, I guess, because it's just attacks characteristic of weapons. And I think we go with this for the mortal wound output over, hey, I get to roll a couple more dice. Especially if, let's say, it's a horde army that you're going against that hits on fives. Or I have a big old horsefly flying around me, don't mind me. Or hits on fours even. And, it'll make them have to waste an all-out attack to try to hit on threes. They throw 30 dice at you. A third of those will fail. Because ones and twos will fail by math. We all know you roll worse in Warhammer anyway until, crazy things happen. So you'll be giving out a lot of mortal wounds just by existing. And maybe you can earn your points back that way. I like Unparalleled Duelist. Again, I like healing. That was my whole thing with Living City before in the old book. Mighty Lineage is cool. And with this, we have just 4 really good ones for humans. And they all have their uses. Huh? Next, Artifacts of Power. Humans only. Brazier of the Holy Flame, Brazier even. Roll the dice for each time a model would flee from a friendly human unit that is wholly within 12 inches of the bear. On a 4-up, they don't flee. Very useful. The army for humans is very low bravery. So you got a 50-50 shot the model doesn't actually run away, and we get to negate some battle shock. That's great. Master of Vivetti's magnificent macroscope has made a return, and at 3 inches, the range characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Sigmar human units that are wholly within 12 of the bear. I mean, yes, more long range is really useful. And it's feeding into that whole idea of like cities as a gun line again. And I always played it as one, but with human troops when Iron Drakes were really more in vogue. I was actually checking my old cities lists versus what I could fit into a list now, and it's actually less shooting models, but they're better. Oops, excuse me. So I'm okay with that. Next, we have Shibtek's Grimoire, which is for a wizard only. My dog's walking around on his claws. Hi, Petey. Once per battle at the start of the enemy hero phase, you can say the bear will conjure a storm. If you do so, roll a d3 until the end of that phase. Subtract the amount from the roll of casting rolls made for enemy wizards. Now, for this current General's Handbook for 2023-2024, I have it right here. With this primal dice thing, right? Some people are like, well, I'll just throw primal dice at it and then it won't matter. But if you can make your opponent waste a resource of all their primal dice trying to get a spell off because you still have 1 or 2 ready to dispel something, and you rolled that 3 on the D3, and it's like, oh man, I need to use my primal dice. I need to, because the average on a dice is somewhere between a 3 and a 4. You functionally take 1 of their dice away, and then it's like they're not using a primal dice. They have to use 2. You can use your 1 to try to stop them, and this could help you get ahead of them, especially if they have like really key spells they need to have go off, or like for buffs and such for resiliency's sake, or if they're out of range for you to dispel and you're like, listen, I need you to stop and not get this thing off on a 10, waste some primal dice, get out of my hair. Oh, even with primal dice, you rolled low. Look at what I can do now. This is useful. Honestly, if I'm looking for a second artifact, like if I'm taking a warlord battalion or a command entourage or something, This isn't a bad shout. Next, we have the Sigmarite Warhammer, because it's Warhammer, Age of Sigmar. Gotta have the Sigmar's baby Warhammer out to the to be in line with Gal Moraz here. Uh, Pick one of the bear's melee weapons, improve the rend by one, and add one to the damage. You can make some very killy heroes with this, if you so choose to. Again, if we're going all in on Marshal on Griffin, that's the name of the old Free Guild General on Griffin, now it's a Free Guild Marshal. Slapping this onto, say, the Lance, that when you charge gets an extra -1 rend and +1 damage, all of a sudden, like, there's like a calculation, you get close to like 30 damage with the Griffin now. And you're almost killing a Mega Gargant on your own. Will you need to build around this with this artifact every time? No, not at all. But it's still a really cool option that we have here, and I think there's play with it. Next, we have the Flask of Lethesian Darkwater from Lethis, where it's once per battle at the end of any phase. I mean any phase here. You can say the bearer will sip from the flask. If you do so, heal up to d6 wounds. And because we're any phase, what we're looking at here is if you need to worry about your monster bracketing. You survived the shooting phase, you survived the charge phase, you took some mortal wounds, you're like, okay, cool, let me just heal up. Or I got in there, cool, let me heal up and get into this. I'm fighting at top bracket because I healed. It being a once per game is not the best when there's other artifacts here, but again, from a narrative perspective, this is good. So back to, now that we're back, hi folks. Back to the Lethesian Darkwater again. For a once per battle ability, it's neat. I'm not building around this as my one artifact for this army. We have 4 better artifacts in descending order of the stopping things from fleeing. The extra range and shooting is never a bad thing if you're going around a human gun line. The Grimoire, I feel like, is a great second artifact if you're running into a lot of magic in your own local competitive scene, or if your buddy just has a Slann that's just ruining your day. And then finally, the Sigmarite Warhammer, as well, I think is still really good as another second artifact. Would I take, like, if I'm not building around shooting and I want a melee beat stick, we're going the Warhammer. If I am doing hordes of shooting, I might take the Brazier of the Holy Flame and the Macroscope, just to make sure. If I'm bringing 2 blocks of 30, the new shooting units, Fusiliers, if I'm bringing 2 blocks of 30 of them, they have a very low bravery. I want to make sure as many of them stick around as possible. I myself am probably running 2 blocks of 20. This last artifact, the Glimmering, is cool. Where once per phase you can reroll 1 hit or wound roll for an attack made by the bearer, or 1 save roll. So again, if you have a hero that, say, has there's a new Free Guild Marshal on horse where they have a pistol shot. I think it's more like a rifle. It's like 18 inches. They might call it a Dragoon pistol, but it's an 18-inch shot, and then you fight with it. Like, cool. In other armies, you would kill for this kind of an artifact or this rule on your units. When it's stacked up against the other things, I think this is something you again take when you're not trying to just curb stomp your opponent, or if you are like me and all you do is roll 2s, maybe this is the artifact, you know? Next, we have the Dwarven and Elven artifacts, because they just fit on one page now. We have a Book of Grudges, a literally Grugny-approved Book of Grudges, Start of your hero phase. If you are more than 3 inches from all enemy units, you can say you will read from the book. If you do so, pick one enemy that is visible. On a 4-up, a grudge is found, and you will have +1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Sigmar's Durden units that target the enemy. That is just a blanket +1 to hit whatever you don't like the look of. So says your 4-up. And again, an army-wide all-out attack, that's useful. And only Dwarden units, still useful. Next, the pile driver gauntlets at the start of the combat phase. If the hero with this is within 3 inches of an enemy, you can say it will strike the ground. If you do so, the bearer cannot fight. However, roll the dice on a 4-up. This is for each enemy unit that you're in combat with. On a 4-up, they get the strike blast effect. So this isn't that flashy. This is probably more of like a crazy run here. But, let's say I have a Rune Lord and nothing to lose. Throwing this on them isn't horrible. They don't fight well anyway. This is my if we get charged in mass, it's the start of the combat phase. They charge me, they tag my guy with this while hitting all the other stuff. I can at least limit the damage, or try to at least on a 4-up, to give these different units the strike last effect. I don't hate it. And if you're not building for the humans to take the order for suppressing fire, this is still doable. Finally, we have the heavy metal ignot, where ignore negative modifiers to save rolls for attacks that target the bearer if the bearer has not made a move in the same turn. Yeah, you have a hero stuck in combat. All of a sudden, they become a lot more survivable. And if they're healing at the end of the combat phase, it's just risky on a 5. Like, if there was a Dwarf King model that had like a Dispossessed Forge Hold expansion, this would be a good artifact on like a 7 wound hero. I don't know that it does good on a 5 wound hero of a Warden King. I don't know. The other two are better, in my opinion. For the elves, we have the Shadow Shroud ring, which is a ripoff of an old Deepkin artifact. Once per battle, at the start of your hero phase, you can say the bearer will use the ring. If you do so until your next hero phase, the bearer is not visible to the enemy if they are more than 12 inches away from them. So this is a way to keep your hero safe to do whatever you need that hero to do. And then again, it's until your next hero phase. So if you're going first, you pop this. So then, presumably, your opponent's first turn, they shouldn't be able to get them. And then on the second turn, it's a maybe they could get them. This is good insurance for defending your hero. My favorite artifact from the old book survived in Anvil Guard Lives, I guess. The Venom Fang Blade here. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with that weapon is a 6, you cause D3 mortal wounds to the target in addition to any damage it inflicts. Again, the murder combo is an Elven Assassin still in the unit. It has 5 or 6 attacks. At 6s to wound, already does mortal wounds. You could be doing 2d3 mortal wounds if you pop off with this thing. It's rare. It's not going to happen all the time. This is a fun pick. Again, there are no heroes that have a lot of attacks where this is the smart pick. This is the fun pick. Having this with on a Dreadlord on Black Dragon with the every miss you do to me is a mortal wound back to you. Again, all of a sudden makes it pretty good. And your dragon is dishing out mortal wounds enough, you might earn the cost back. Finally, we have the Anklet of Epiphany. which to a wizard, so this goes on a sorceress, where it adds 6 inches to the range of spells cast by the bearer while you are wholly on a terrain feature and or contesting an objective. You can deploy on a terrain feature and all of a sudden do all your stuff, be +3, maybe +4 to cast in a certain subfaction. This is good. This is really good. Um, Again, if I'm going elf heroes, I like the Shadow Shroud ring as the smart play if I need to keep a hero alive. Like, it's important in my battle plan. I love the Anklet of Epiphany, and the Venom Fang Blade is, just from experience, very fun when you pop off with it. The Anklet is the smart choice. The Shadow Shroud ring is a very good second choice, and the Venom Fang Blade is just fun. Next, we have Spell Lords. These are for human wizards. Don't mind my dog there. We have Fireball, goes off on a 6, range of 18 inches. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range, invisible. Roll 1 dice for each model in the unit. On a 6, they take a mortal wound. If you run into 60 zombies, 60 dice. You're going to get some 6s there and start thinning the herd out. Next, Mystifying Miasma. Goes off on a 5, range of 24 inches. Pick one enemy. They cannot run until your next hero phase, and they are -2 from charge rolls until your next hero phase. This is my winner for my favorite freaking spell right now. I love this. Age of Sigmar is 1 in the movement phase, and stopping people from running onto an objective to have 1/2 more, gorgeous. Extremely long range on 24 inches. A 5 to cast. You'll love to see it. And then the -2 from charge rolls is just icing on top of the cake right here. All right, that little cherry on top. Chef's kiss. No notes. Love this spell. Next, we have Paul of Doom, which goes off on a 7, 18-inch spell again. High casting value, but pick one enemy in range, invisible. The enemy cannot issue or receive commands until the start of your next hero phase. Still very strong. That's 7. That's a reasonable number for casting in this army where you can get bonuses to cast and you have primal dice. This is a very good spell. It's very useful. Commands are very important to a lot of armies. You put this on a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, all of a sudden it's not issuing 3 commands to units for 1 CP. It's great. Foz Protection got reworked. It's a 7, 18-inch range. Pick one friendly city's human unit. These are all for the humans anyway, for buffs and debuffs. But for this friendly city's human unit, you ignore modifiers, positive or negative. You become ethereal. There are units in this book on a 2-up armor save. You throw this sucker on there, you are loving life. Reign of Jade is at 7, 12-inch range. Pick a human unit within range, invisible. Roll a dice for each wound it's missing. And on a 5-up, that wound is healed. Healing magic, again, is always nice. It being on a 5-up to do the healing is a little rough. I wish it was more like heal D6. But that's okay. Transmutation of Lead is a 7, 12-inch range. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within range, invisible to the caster. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each roll that equals or exceeds their save characteristic, that unit suffers a mortal wound. And against elite units that aren't going to have a lot of models, whether they're 3 or 5-man or maybe a 10-man unit if it's reinforced, you're going to kill 1 or 2 models. Maybe. If they're on like a 3-up save, if the Stormcast with a 2-up. Into hordes, if they're a horde of a 4-up save, you've got some play. It's a danger close range of 12 inches. It's not what I'm here for. It is a decent spell. Then we have Twin-Tailed Comet, which goes off on a 7, range of 18. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range invisible to the caster. You draw a straight line between the caster and 1 model in that unit. For friendly units that the line passes over, because like you shoot a comet, they are invigorated and they have a bravery of 10. For enemy units, they take D3 mortal wounds. It's okay. A lot of cities' human units have very low bravery, so I get what this could be doing. This isn't my favorite spell. We have other things here that are better. Mystifying Miasma. It's okay. Finally, the fan favorite wild form got reworked. Goes off on a 7 now. It's not just a Gur mage with pluses to cast anymore. Pick 1 friendly city's human unit that's wholly within range invisible. And they can attempt a 3d6 charge. And can charge if you're within 18 inches instead of 12. It's still a really good rule. It's still a really good spell. It is worth the 7. It's keyworded to city's human unit. It's not War Scroll block, so you won't see people allying Gur mages to have this spell anymore. It's fine. It's good for our army. The story of this book is we are playing within this book. They got rid of coalition units. They still have a bunch of allies. Play with your toys, cities, generals that are just within the city's book. And I'll be honest, as someone that had fulminators years before it was cool, in my living city army, and always having a knight incanter to do my auto and all my stormcast I kept bringing in. I get it, I do, and now I have more room for the cool reworked cities units. So they gave me a reason to want to play in cities as well, which is what is really important. Next, we have the lore of dark sorcery for the elf wizards. We have sap strength making a return. Goes off on a 6 this time. Range of 18. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit. There are -1 from wound rolls for attacks that target your friendly units until the next hero phase. That's great. Umbral Hex goes off on a 6. 12-inch range. Pick 1 enemy unit. Until the start of your next hero phase, each time a battle shock roll is made for that unit, 2d6 must be rolled instead of the usual 1 dice. That'll make battle shocks a lot worse. And bravery, again, all of a sudden becomes important in how they allocate command points. And finally, the star of the show, Tumble Blades, it was used to have a different name. It was something spray that I can't remember the name of right now. Where it now goes off on a 7. It used to go off on something much higher. And if successfully cast, pick a friendly city's elf unit within range, wholly within range, and until the start of your next hero phase, when making save rolls for attacks made by melee weapons with the city's elf unit, the target's save characteristic is dash. They do not get a save. This spell is Vitriolic Spray was the old name of this. And it was like a 6-inch range. It was like danger close. You had to shoot it through a spell portal to remove a unit save. And this is before modifiers. You make it dash. Functionally, it is a 7-up save. This all of a sudden means all-out attack. Makes it a 6-up. And because you can only ever get to 1 better on a save roll, the best a unit could hope for is a 6-up. And then it don't matter if you got red or not, because you're getting a lot of stuff through, and it's going to feel like you're doing mortal wounds. And it's going to be amazing. This is an amazing spell. Going off on a 7 is criminal, because we've already talked about how to get at least +3 to cast this thing, plus a primal dice, plus the subfaction rules. This is amazing. Rune Lord prayers here. We've got the Rune of Unfaltering Aim, which is on a 3. Pick a friendly Durden unit. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons. This goes on your Iron Drakes. You have several ways to get +1 to hit. I don't hate it, and if you're trying to save command points, this is a good prayer. The Rune of Oath and Steel, again, goes off on a 3. Put it onto a friendly Dwarden unit, hold it within 12 inches of the prayer caster. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target this unit. An amazing buff to your unit and debuff to enemy units trying to kill them. You love to see it. Finally, the Rune of Wrath and Ruin goes off on a 3 again. Range of 18. If answered, pick one enemy unit within range and roll 6 dice. For each 5 up, they suffer a mortal wound. You pop them for 3 mortal wounds, the unit is ruined until the start of your next hero phase, which means ignore positive modifiers for save rolls for attacks that target this unit. No all-out defense, no mystic shield, no getting cover saves for +1 to your save here. This is honestly really good, and because it doesn't have to go on a Dwarden unit, throwing a Rune Lord in your army for this is good, and your negative modifiers to their saves still go through. Next, we have the 11 cities. This video is getting long. That's why it's a 2-parter. We're doing this, and then we're going to do the battle scrolls, war scrolls later. Words are hard. Hammerhall Akshi, or Aksha, because there's no Y there. Hammerhall Aksha, officers of the Academy Marshal, which is, the short version is, when giving out orders to friendly heroes, one of those heroes can give 2 orders instead of 1, but they must issue different orders. You can't say, hey, we're going to double move. Also, if you have Aventus Firestrike, the Stormcast model, as an ally, you get an extra command point. And it does have a rule, that model, to give +1 to hit for Hammerhall units. Still not really worth it, though, because you don't get access to the spell lore here. They're an ally. It's like 300 and some odd points for this model. Even if it was like 100 points, I don't know that I've ever played Aventus in my Stormcast army. Ever. So no. Still, I like the 2 orders thing because we want to keep giving out orders. Tempest Eye, rapid redeploy. For allied Caradron and Tempest Eye units, you can retreat and shoot. We do not have Pistoliers or the, I was going to call them Dragoons. They're not Dragoons. The old Repeater Handgunner Cav. They're not in this anymore. If you're going Elves, though, they do have a lot of incidental shooting. Retreating and shooting out units of your handgunners is useful enough, but then you can shoot into combat in this game system, and you'd rather just do that. So, nope. Not my favorite. But again, if you have a Sky Vessel and units that are in the Sky Vessel, this can be useful. I don't know the points on an Ironclad, but having a couple gun haulers or a frigate, all of a sudden we've got something cooking there. Next, we have Hollowheart with their Wild Magic rule, which is if you attempt to cast a spell with a Hollowheart Wizard, you can say they will harness Wild Magic. If you do so, roll 3 dice instead of 2. But if the unmodified roll of a 10-up happens, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds after the effects of the spell have been resolved. So here's where this is fun. Primal dice are now a modifier. So this is literally, if you just hit a 9 on 3 dice, which I do all the time and it's stupid because I roll really bad, this is the subfaction for you. You basically start off with a free primal dice. If you do this on a Hurricanum that can actually take the wounds, or if it's, again, top of 1 and you have a hero that needs to get their spell off, you do that, and then there's ways to heal your heroes in this army, which is nice. I like this. I do like this. Hammerhall Gyra, which is when you pick the army, you can add an extra reinforcement to one of your units. In addition, human units will, if they have 10 or more models, get a bravery of which is great because there's a lot of bravery 5 and 6. So again, strength in numbers with Hammerhall Gyra. It's useful. It's useful, and if you want to play a horde meta, you want to bring, 2 units of reinforced, double reinforced Fusiliers, and then a reinforced unit of the cavalry. This is your army right here. This is it. This is where you want to be. My beloved Living City. They kept the Hunters of the Hidden Path ability, which is extended to allied Sylvaneth on the battlefield. You can place, for each unit you put on the field, you can put one in reserve. And at the end of your movement phase, you can set up one or more of these reserve units on the battlefield, wholly within 6 inches of the edge, and more than 9 enemy units. You lost the ability to spend a command point to shoot and move. Maybe Drycha is worth this. But again, you're not shooting and moving Durthu or Fulminators or Dragons. And more importantly, you got to make that 9-inch charge where you probably don't have pluses to do that. There's one scenario where there's a hero that can give out +3 to charge after the fact, but they can't deep strike with the unit you're putting there to get the buff. It's a lot harder than it should be. And because you're limited to allies with Sylvaneth, you can't currently fit a reinforced unit of Kurnoth Hunters with bows to set up a good shooting platform. And when we get to the rules for the human shooting units, for most of the shooting units in this book, because of Living City and because of the Bridge Endless spell that you always saw, units that get a bonus if they don't move also get the bonus if they aren't set up. And coming out of this is a setup. So your shooting definitely suffers. If you're, say, an elf, like a Darkling crossbowman, this isn't actually so bad for you. If you're not bringing elves, this is a little rough. It's a little rough. Next, we have Graywater Fastness, which has maintained its shooting prowess. You get a Graywater Welcome. I think the old one used to be a Graywater Hello, where you got to shoot before, like at the first phase, you got to shoot your stuff twice in the first turn. I remember hugging every piece of terrain to stop my opponent from being able to do that. But now you can use the all-out attack command up to 3 times, and the first 2 times you use it, it's free. The third time you spend a command point, which is amazing if you're going really shooting heavy. You have 3 units that shoot. Yes, please do this. You march them up so they get the extra range because you're humans, and you just start firing away and blasting away everybody. This is definitely a pick for a very competitive list if you're not going magic heavy. Even if you are going magic heavy, the amount of shots coming out of this in one of those units, if it's Fusiliers, will be at probably +1 to hit and wound, and they'll all have extended range because of the artifact you chose. You are looking very good. Yep. Next is Lethis with a surprise mention, because that hasn't been in there for a very long time, where friendly human heroes that are not wizards just become priests now. And human priests and Stormcast priests know the following prayer: Morta's Embrace. Goes off on a 4, range of 12 inches, pick 1 enemy unit within range, and they don't get ward saves. It's an anti-death faction ability built into the town from the underworld, Shaiish. That's probably how that city stayed alive so long, is they've removed the ward saves of enemy units, which is great. Also, there's a Stormcast priest that natively has a +1 to chanting rolls for prayers. So you can get this off on a 3, and it is a lot more reliable. Vindicarum, which is the city of unyielding faith, where friendly Vindicarum units can rally while in combat. And if you're going to bring Flagellant, uh, they return on a 5-up instead of a 6. They have a cool ability that when they die on a 5-up, they can do a mortal wound back at you. So you can bring like a big unit of 30 and just cycle, bring them back. And we have a lot of mortal wounds in this army, which is nice. Then we have Excelsis even. Fearsome breeds here. They out in Gur, they grow them big. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic of friendly Excelsis monsters. In addition, each time a friendly Excelsis Free Guild Cavaliers unit fights, after all the attacks have been made, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 of the Cavalier unit and roll the dice for each Cavalier model in the unit. For each 4-up, the enemy suffers a mortal wound. You've got 5 horsemen. You roll 5 dice. Each 4-up is a mortal wound. So this is one of those I would want to bring a couple blocks of 10 Cavaliers and just have an amazing time. Because I do this basically with Evocators on Dracolions in my Stormcast army, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And if I'm bringing my Griffin, this is where I would bring it. If I ever buy Cal the Charybdis, his War Scroll's a little sus. This isn't bad. Settler's Gain, another one of my favorite preferred factions in the old book, along with Excelsis, is Expert Instruction. You get +1 to casting for Settler's Gain wizards in general. So now we can be up to +4 on the Sorceress. And in addition, at the start of each hero phase, gain 1 additional command point if the model picked to be your general is within 3 inches of a friendly Lumineth Rumlord's hero. We used to have an adjutant rule in Cities of Sigmar where your general would have a buddy that would do this on a 4-up. So now it's each hero phase as well. You could be swimming in command points in an army that doesn't necessarily need a lot, but if you're going to be rallying, if you're going to be doing all of these things, I think, because there's a hero that has a rally rule in there to make it easier for you. Having the extra command points just to spend, and like an all-out attack in the shooting and combat phase, an all-out defense, that's 3 command points. The rally would make it 4. Ignoring Battle Shock is a 5th command point. You can be command point heavy. If some of your other buffs don't go off on those prayer rolls. So this is a very, very good sub-faction in general. And if you already have an LRL hero, because again, the old settlers gain 1 in 4 units. My whole plan was having a bunch of the kangaroos and the archers come in here. That's not a thing anymore. I'm glad I didn't buy into it, and that was only like a proxy build I would play. But if you want like the Lore Seeker or the Twins or Eltharion even, that's very doable, and then you have a very durable beat stick in Eltharion. Then we have Misthaven, Misthaven, I don't know. It's a fantasy word, don't mind me. At the end of your hero phase, pick up to 3 different Misthaven units that are outside of 12 inches of all enemy units. All right. Each of those units can make a move up to D6. You roll separately for each unit. It's a free move to make sure you're in position. And it doesn't count as a normal move, which is nice. And if you have a mount, you can make 2d6, and you can finish within 3 inches of enemy units with this rule. So if you roll a 10 and you're you're outside of 12, you roll a 10, with the cavalry, you get in there, you get around Unleash Hell. And if not, you get really freaking close so that when they go to redeploy in the movement phase, you're already on them. And it allows you to have board control and spread out and take objectives easier because it's like you do this and then you also do your normal move in the movement phase. And this is not where we're gonna end up. We're gonna go on here. Grand strategies. We have Exemplar of the Academy. Do 4 battle tactics from the list below. No one's taking it. Reclaim for Sigmar. If you have one friendly Cities of Sigmar unit holding within each large quarter of the battlefield, I don't know why they needed to say large. There's 4 quarters. Great. You need to probably win the game, though, if you still have an army to be able to do this. Hold the high ground. You hold the middle of the table, and there are any friendly units in the middle of the hold within 12 of the center of the battlefield, and no enemy units within the center of the battlefield. That's good. Again, you're probably still winning the game if this happens, but it's doable. And banners held high. When the battle ends, each player totals up the number of standard bearers and units with the totem keyword in their army that are on the battlefield. If your total is higher, you win. Have more flags. Honestly, that's kind of funny. I like it. I do like it. There are lots of banners in this unit, and the units. Excuse me. It's good. It's good. None of these are blowing me away. The battle tactics here, we got bring full arms to bear, pick one enemy unit. That unit is destroyed while it was suppressed with the suppressing fire order. You score it. You could suppress it with a unit and then still kill it in shooting. You just need to beat their bravery anyway. Neat. And pick a unit and just kill it. Make sure you do the suppressing fire order first. Doable. Raise the banner. Pick one objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this battle tactic if you control that objective at the end of this turn. With a friendly free guild command corps that has the Great Herald, there is a unit we will go over in the next video that has a big old flag. You just need your opponent to control an objective first, and then take it with this unit. That's great. Oh, you have to control it and have it. Yeah, it's nice. Black powder bombardment. You need to destroy 3 enemy units in your shooting phase. If you have a bunch of enemy units that are looking a little rough, shoot them. Bag 3, you're good. Mount the charge here. Select one objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this tactic if you control that objective at the end of this turn, and every friendly unit that contests it has a mount. You get a charge move this turn. If you have cavalry or a big monster that's with a hero riding it, as neat. Strike without warning. If 3 or more friendly Cities of Sigmar elf units made a charge move this turn, if you brought elves, this is doable. And then, and mind you too, like with the shooting, it's this black powder bombardment. You just need to kill them in the shooting phase. You could do this with elves or dwarves. Full arms to bear again. You need humans for that one because it's suppressing fire. Free Guild Command Corps is a human unit. There's not really many reasons to take it if you're not going human. It's still nice. I gotta check the keywords if it's buffing humans or not. So probably not that. And then you have Iron Might. If 3 or more friendly Dwarden units fought this turn and no friendly Dwarden units were destroyed this turn, score that. So we've got 4 to do if you are not a human. 4 to do if you're not, and they're okay. Unless you have a big menagerie of stuff to even try all these, I would never take Exemplar of the Academy Marshal. We have the Core Battalion, which is a fun one, of the Castellite formation that everyone keeps talking about. You have one Fusel Major on an Ogre Warhawk. You have units of Fusiliers or Steel Helms, and then a Great Cannon. This will get you a 1-drop and a once per battle all out attack or unleash hell without a command point being issued, without a command point being spent. So you get a free that without the command being issued and without a command point being spent. Without it being issued is huge because that means technically you could unleash hell twice. Which is a very good thing, and it might be a reason just to take one of the cannons. They're weird in the sense that they have the same range as the Fusiliers, and you probably want the Fusiliers, just they're more consistent damage. This isn't bad. You know, you get some points changes here on the Warhawk and the cannon, and you're cooking with gas. And then we will save War Scrolls till next time. Thank you for watching. And as I like to say at the end of all of our videos, be nice and roll some dice. Bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, thanks for staying this long. Bye.